Most people use the four letters, however, it really doesn't get into the juice of it until you learn about the functions. All right, welcome to the video. This is all about the Myers-Briggs personality typing system, and we are going to go over the 8 cognitive functions. I have found so much value in learning about the functions, even though I was hesitant to do it at first. I hope that this is an easy way to break it down and understand all of them. I'm Megan, and I help women find their purpose by identifying their unique personality types. And one of my favorite ways to do that is by analyzing characters and helping you get a clearer picture of yourself. Myers-Briggs is a method of classifying your personality type. Most people use the four letters I or E, N or S, F or T, and J or P to capture this personality type. However, it really doesn't get into the juice of it until you learn about the function. But let's go over the most basic level just so you have a surface level understanding before we jump in. So E or I, extrovert or introvert. According to this system, you are an extrovert if you get energy from the outside world in any way. So that doesn't necessarily mean people. You could also get energized by interacting with the sensory objects like going for a run, or even making a craft of some sort. It could also be ideas, external tasks, basically anything external. If you're energized by that, you are an extrovert. In the Myers-Briggs system, you are an introvert if you get energy from tapping into your own ideas, thoughts, feelings, or imaginings, and that kind of classifies the two. Then you are either an S or an N, meaning you're either a sensor or an intuitive. Sensors are very much grounded in the physical world or just physical sensation in general. It just means senses, and senses can even be internal. Whereas intuitives are much more based in the world of ideas and abstract concepts, so they're very much not in the here and now. Then, of course, there is the feeler thinker difference, which is pretty self explanatory, but there's some nuances we can get into with that later. And lastly, there is the P or J, so you're either a perceiver or a judger. Perceivers are great at gathering lots of information before making a decision. They are very adaptable, but they tend to not be the best planners, whereas judgers are very much planning, organized, but they tend to be a little rigid. So you might be able to type yourself based on just these four letters. And for me, I would probably type myself as an INTJ, but that would actually be incorrect. So this is why you really have to know the functions to type yourself. So the 8 cognitive functions were originally identified by Carl Jung, and he defines them as mental processes within a person's psyche that are present regardless of common circumstances. Basically, they're these dispositions that do not change through time. Each of us has 4 functions that we consciously use, and I like to imagine it like they are a 4-person family in a car. So, your hero function, your main function is the driver. He is directing the car, telling everyone where to go, he's in charge. Then your growth function, your second function, would be the spouse holding the map and maybe giving the main driver directions, which he may or may not listen to. And the third member of the family would be a 10-year-old sitting in the back seat, and he is sometimes right, sometimes wrong, always pretty confident. And the last one would be the little 4-year-old toddler in the car seat who is either super happy or super sad, and he just represents your inferior function, not quite as advanced as the driver. So as we're going through these, I want you to think about which ones you identify with the most, which could be your hero function, not meaning it's always right, it doesn't make every turn correctly, but it is your main way of processing the world and making judgments and decisions. I also want you to think about your weaker functions, which ones may be sitting in the back. And one thing to note is that your second function, the spouse, the growth function, is going to be the opposite of your first, in that it will be extroverted if your main function is introverted, or introverted if your main function is extroverted. And that is why it's called a growth function, because you really have to go against the grain of your personality to tap into it. The 8 cognitive functions are based on these 4 dispositions, and they can be either introverted or extroverted. So there is introverted or extroverted sensing, introverted or extroverted intuition, introverted or extroverted feeling, and introverted or extroverted thinking. And now we are finally going to dive into the Pixar characters. The first function is extroverted sensing, which is all about being in the moment, taking action, being spontaneous, and just really being in the physical world. The first character that came to mind for this was Dash from The Incredibles.
Look, I'm Dash.
Because he is just fast. He loves the sensation of running. He isn't overthinking things. He just kind of reacts in the moment. And he just really represents how extroverted sensing is just in the present. Next up would be Buzz from Toy Story. He's very action oriented.
Sheriff, this is no time to panic.
He's very much in reality. He's not really thinking of abstract philosophical things, especially when he is on that default factory setting mode. And for the darker side of extroverted sensing, I chose Lightning McQueen because he is flashy, he is competitive, he loves the thrill of driving or racing, I guess. He's not very introspective, he's not very deep.
I'm gonna cut to the chase. Me, you, dinner.
What the? Ow!
He just kind of lives for the moment. If any of that resonates with you, you might have extroverted sensing in your top 2. Our next function is introverted sensing. This is kind of a unique function, even though it's very common. It's a little bit hard for us to understand in the West, but it's basically about tradition, routine, stability, structure, and even memory. Introverted sensors base their decision off of what has worked before. So even if you're not a traditional person or someone very focused on the past, if you're someone who's super routine oriented, you might be an introverted sensor. So the first introverted sensor that came to mind from Pixar was Marlin from Finding Nemo.
Marty, right? Marlin.
He is super cautious, careful, and even very cognizant of the past, namely the trauma of losing his wife. But we can also see his introverted sensing in how he really resists Nemo's attempts to change and risk.
Don't touch the Nemo!
That is the cautious side of an introverted sensor. Next up would be Carl from Up. Carl is the epitome of an introverted sensor. He holds dearly to memories of his wife, his house, and just all that came with that.
Don't touch that! You'll soil it!
But ultimately, his arc is about letting go of the past while still valuing it. So that can be a good lesson for people who use introverted sensing. And last up would be Joe Gardner's mom in Soul. She is a tailor, which is a very practical job, and she really provides some groundedness to the film, whereas other characters are more dreamers. She is just a grounded, realistic person.
You always got a plan. You need to have a backup plan, too.
Who just finds value in day-to-day life.
Let's make this work instead.
Next up is extroverted intuition, which is all about possibilities and abstract connections. Extroverted intuition users tend to be super spontaneous and creative and even considered a little eccentric. They thrive on novelty, brainstorming, and innovation. So the first person I thought of for this would be Dory. She is super quirky and cute, but once you look more deeply at her character, you can see that she is actually a very creative problem solver and original thinker.
Maybe he only speaks whale.
She does not struggle at all to make these very large, intuitive leaps.
He says it's time to let go!
How do you know something bad isn't gonna happen?
I don't!
Which actually gets her team, farther, her and Marlin. It gives them progress in their journey.
Boing, boing.
Next up would be Russell from Up. He is a very talkative, curious child.
The wilderness must be explored!
Who is always asking questions, which really represents extroverted intuition's joy and excitement about the world. They tend to be very enthusiastic people. And for the darker side of extroverted intuition, I went with Soul 22 from Soul. She is always just sampling different philosophies, never really deciding on any true, clear focus.
Thousands of mentors who failed and now hate me. Mother Teresa, Muhammad Ali, already know everything about Earth, and it's not worth the trouble.
And this can be the trap to watch out for if you are an extroverted intuition user, where you don't really commit to anything or have a solid belief system. So, if any of that resonated with you, you might have extroverted intuition. Next up is introverted intuition, which is very future focused. It's very focused on pattern recognition as well, and just abstract thought in general. People with introverted intuition tend to be guided by some sort of vision they had for their life, but sometimes they get a little bit locked into that to an extreme. Our first example of introverted intuition is Eve from Wall-E. Yes, she is a robot, but she has a very clear mission and is not very distractible. Very much unlike extroverted intuition. So she follows her mission, and that is just a great example of introverted intuition. Sadness from Inside Out is a little bit of a dreary character, but she makes some connections that the other characters don't.
I bet you and Riley had great adventures.
She has more of a long-term vision for Riley and realizes that Riley needs some sadness in order to arrive at greater joy and just a deeper personhood. So, in that way, sadness really represents introverted intuition, and that introverted intuition is more focused on the long term goal. Last up would be Joe from Soul, and he shows a little bit of the darker side of introverted intuition and that sense of tunnel vision people can get as he is just all consumed by his goal of becoming a jazz musician.
It's the moment where I fell in love with jazz.
And this happens a lot to introverted intuitives. They get so focused on this one goal that they forget there's anything else in life. And if you resonate with that, you might have some introverted intuition in you. Next up is extroverted feeling, which is all about maintaining group harmony, meeting social expectations, and attuning to others' emotions. It's such a sweet function. However, it can also be a little bit controlling, as we will see in some of our characters. First character who really represents extroverted feeling is Gusteau from Ratatouille. He is super supportive to Remy throughout the process, always encouraging and empathizing with him, which is a hallmark of extroverted feeling.
What do I always say? Anyone can cook.
Next up would be a little stereotypical, but it is Doug from Up.
My name is Doug. I have just met you, and I love...
He is a golden retriever dog who is just super excitable, but this is very much a side of extroverted feelers. They genuinely get energy from being around other people. They feel filled up, they make connections easily, and they tend to have a pretty positive outlook on just other people in general. Last up would be Woody from Toy Story, and he shows us some of the negative sides of extroverted feeling in that he is a little bit managerial with his group. He's a little bit controlling. He, even excludes Buzz and other characters when they don't do the right thing.
You are a toy!
But at the end of the day, he is a leader. He is someone who wants to take care of people.
What matters is that we're here for Andy when he needs us. That's what we're made for, right?
Also, I think he is very much an extroverted feeler. Next up is introverted feeling, which, unlike extroverted feeling, is more about the person themselves. So it is about individual values, authenticity, and just one's own deep feelings. A great example of an introverted feeler is Merida from Brave.
I am Merida.
She really bucks tradition and social expectations of getting married
Rather die than be like you.
in order to just ride on her horse and be independent and just really live aligned with her authentic self. She is very much in touch with her values, and she is a great example of an introverted feeler. Next up would be Remy from Ratatouille. Like Merida, he rejects the expectations his family puts on him and just pursues what feels right to him. Being a chef, not eating garbage, loving food, enjoying food.
All we do is take, Dad. I'm tired of taking. I want to make things. I want to add something to this world.
And even though it is completely countercultural, he finds a way to be a chef as a rat.
It's the cook, the real cook. He's been hiding under my toque.
and it's not for any sort of acclaim. It is just because this is his genuine passion and self. Last up, Violet from The Incredibles. She is a little shy in the beginning, a little bit moody, a little bit standoffish, especially towards her mom and her siblings.
Tony Ridinger.
Shut up!
Though it's typical of being a teenager, this can also come out with unhealthy introverted feelers. But throughout the film, she learns to just get comfortable in her own skin,
You're, Violet, right?
That's me.
to live by her values, and to take brave action based on her moral compass. Next up is extroverted thinking, which is all about getting things done, strategizing, making an impact, and in some ways taking care of people. It's about organizing resources and people to meet goals. First up is Helen, or Elastigirl from The Incredibles. She is organized, efficient, and direct.
I mean, either he's in trouble or he's going to be.
Though she is in that nurturing, mothering role, she is very organized, very efficient, and very much focused on meeting goals, getting her family to safety, and just doing it as efficiently as possible.
Everybody calm down. Now I'll tell you what we're not gonna do. We're not gonna panic. We're not gonna... Look out!
Next up is Colette from Ratatouille. She is results-driven, efficient, and structured. And though she has a sweet side, at the end of the day, she is just a goal-oriented person and very much focused on doing a job well done.
Cooking is a cute job, eh? Like mommy in the kitchen. Well, mommy never had to face the dish, which is different and not as simple and all of different cooking times, but must arrive on the customer's table at exactly the same time, hot and perfect.
Last up is our icon, Mike Wazowski. He has a bit of a tude, but he is very practical. He's ambitious, which is very common for extroverted thinkers. He's pretty organized as he keeps track of Sully's scare schedule, and he's not particularly empathetic, especially when it messes with his goals. For example, he is not the sweetest to Boo, the little kid that they have to take care of for a while because she kind of messes up his whole plan.
Now put that thing back where it came from, or so help me!
However, you can see by the end, he is using his strengths to help the team.
Dodgeball was the best. Of course, I was the ball.
And last up is introverted thinking. And this type of thinking is different from extroverted, and that is more concerned with logic, being internally consistent, precise, and in depth. People who lead with introverted thinking tend to be very analytical and original thinkers. A great example from Pixar is Philk, who is just super inventive. He is an original thinker and goes against the grain of his colony to invent new ways of doing things. It's not always accepted, but he just has to stick by what makes sense to him.
Ants are not meant to serve grasshoppers.
He values logic over tradition, which is a hallmark of introverted thinkers. Next up is Anton Ego from Ratatouille. He has some emotions, which we see by the end of the film. He is not a robot, but he is very precise. He is very skilled at taking an objective view of things, which is very important as a critic.
In many ways, the work of a critic is easy. Thrive on negative criticism, which is fun to write and to read.
He is just more logical and analytical, so it's a great example of introverted thinking. Next up is Gil from Finding Nemo. And he proves just because you have introverted thinking, it doesn't automatically make you a nerd. You can be cool, okay? So Gil has introverted thinking, which really shows in all these escape plans he makes. He really considers the layout of the tank and also each fish's special talents when he makes these plans.
We need you to do is take a pebble inside there and jam the gears. Do that, and the dentist will have to clean the tank himself. Foolproof. Who's with me?
And though, he has a sweet feeling side to him, he is much more driven by logic and what makes sense to him. Take a minute and think about which characters you relate to the most, which functions you might have, and I'm going to lead you through an example of how to determine your whole stacking in each function area in the car model. For me, I resonate most with Joe from Soul. I can be very singularly focused, and the explanation of introverted intuition just really lines up with the way my brain works, constantly looking for patterns, all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to put that in my first hero function. The next one I resonate most with is introverted thinking. I feel like I'm a pretty logical person, step by step, and it just resonates a lot. But remember, I said your second function cannot also be introverted if your first one is. So I'm going to have to move that down to my third tertiary function, which is my 10-year-old function, and tells me I might not be as logical as I think. And I have to think about, okay, so my second function has to be the opposite or the inverse of my first in some ways. It has to be extroverted if my first is introverted. And for me, I think I come across as more of a feeler. I do get some energy from just helping other people, empathizing with people. So I think my second function is extroverted feeling. And then for the last function, I'm not really sure how to figure that out. I struggle with a few of the things on the list. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip my first function around, and that is automatically your last inferior function. So for me, as an introverted intuitive, the opposite of intuition is sensing. And for your reference, the opposite of thinking is feeling. So if the opposite of intuition is sensing and the opposite of introversion is extroversion, my last function will be extroverted sensing. So that fills out my entire chart, and I hope you were able to do the same. I hope this is super helpful to you in understanding yourself at a deeper level, and that it gets you closer to your purpose. So that's all from me. Have a great rest of your day, and hit like and subscribe if you liked it. All right, take care. Bye-bye.